This episode of The Strain was brought to you by Coors Light. Because you're never too drunk to have a Coors Light. Man's beer. Alright guys, gals, and everything in between. Another week, another episode of The Strain, and yes, there are so many beer ads in front of The Strain, it is kind of ridiculous. Anyways, had to do that because, well, you know, lots of beer ads, and it made me go, I think I need beer for The Strain, so got the refreshing taste of Coors Light, a man's beer. What an episode, people. We'll get to some of my brain exploded and worms and strigoi were everywhere. That kind of sounded inappropriate. This episode starts with Captain McDouchington in his lair with his weird mom, and she was weirdly attractive during this whole scene, and she was talking to him about how they were birthed, and how he was a rare birth because he was essentially still in his mother's womb when he was born, and it was weird and disgusting, and it was like half flashback, half this is why we're so connected, and Zach, you know, we're still going to be connected even though I'm a weird strigoi vampire, and you're the brattiest kid that everybody's ever hated since Carl of The Walking Dead. To Zach, as I do just about every week, especially of season 2, to Zach, Fett was trying to eat food. And that was literally the beginning of Fett, is you just see him, he's cutting up some food, and he's got it in his hands, and he's about to eat it, and denied. We've all been there, folks. Poor Fett. So, he's hearing Satrakian extremely angry, and he runs into the room to see what's the matter, and the book is gone. The lumen has been taken, which, as we all know, is by F and Quinlan. And he's like, I knew this the whole entire time he would betray us. But Fett, being Fett, he sits there and is like, well, you know, I put a tracking device because I don't trust the Muncher. I love that. So I put the tracking device in the middle of the book, in the spine of the book where no Muncher could ever get it. And now we have it. So we can find him, let's go. And Satrakian's like, well, let's do it, and we're gonna kill somebody in the process. We haven't seen Satrakian this mad in a while. So he's pissed off, they're on a roll to go kick some ass. Now we're back to Gus. We skipped an episode with Gus, and I've always really been curious about where the story of Gus is going because he's feeding his mother the strigoi blood, and he's really exhausted, he's worn down. It looks like that's all he's doing now, is pretty much just keeping himself alive enough to feed his mother. So he grabs a helmet because he's presumably going to move his mom. And we have a cool scene where the strigoi of his mom hits the dog bowl, and then all of a sudden he just flips it up and then puts the helmet on her head and is holding her down so he can move her. And that cool helmet now all of a sudden is on her head, so she's not able to bite him. But our boy that I forgot was around shows up, and I had glee. The Silver Angel is back. So Silver Angel comes in and is like, Dios mío, all in his soap opera fashion. And because he realizes that Gus is just sitting there keeping his mom there, and he, of course, is going to have to convince him, which you never get between, especially a Hispanic man and his mother, for the love of God. F and Quinlan are out, and he's reading the book, and he's like, you know, I don't really believe what's in this book. And that's when we get our big drop. When Quinlan says, which, by the way, to whoever edited that trailer at FX, the reveal that Quinlan is the Master's son. That is just like, who put that in the trailer? For those who didn't experience it, need to understand that's not okay. It's a great reveal, although I would imagine a little more dramatic reveal would have done better. But I still think that the way he just kind of nonchalantly brings it up to F, and F's just kind of like, huh? You know, it passes. It works. That is really where I am lying in that. I wanted a bigger reveal of that because having known that he's the Master's son the entire time, I was waiting for like a really cool reveal. But then when they just sort of casually drop it to F, I mean, the reaction is perfect and it feels like it would be something that happens naturally. So that I'm okay with. But again, I kind of wanted a bigger reveal with that. Every internet forum on the internet has one of these. We all have it in our brain. F wants to know how Quinlan was made. If he's half human, half vampire, how does that work? Because the vampires don't have the business downstairs. So Quinlan first thinks he's being insulted, but F's actually being genuine. And we get a real moment with Quinlan because we keep flashing back to ye old days where this woman is raising Quinlan, and at the time he's not named Quinlan, but they're talking about like raising him and how like you see this mother figure with him of this human woman who wants to raise Quinlan. So then we're also seeing him talk in the cab with F, and it was actually a genuinely humanizing moment because before this, Quinlan's just kind of that cool dude who shows up and does something cool, and you get that cool music in the background, and he can kick a jukebox and it automatically starts playing. He's that guy. This scene was the moment that you see more of his human side, where you're getting this, oh yeah, my mother was pregnant, and the Master sensed the two heartbeats and hit me, or hit her, with the Strigoi virus, and it got into me. I'm not the first one to have this happen, but I'm basically going to make sure it's the last person it happens to. And so F is understanding this and says, I actually can connect to that, which also ties back to the beginning of the episode. And I love it when they make everything relevant in the show. So it ties back to the episode that he understands that there was something with the birth that made things complicated and linked people because of the fact that F is sort of, his son Zach is linked to his mother with the womb, the way she was born, or he was born. It's rare. And so with Quinlan, they almost came from the same cut of cloth per se. And so I like it when the show does that and makes these things relevant. So now we're back to the badasses. We got we got Satrakian and we got Fett, and they're tracking him and hunting for him. And they're like, oh, he's going all over the city. And then we see F again. And F and Quinlan are in the middle of like a convenience store bodega out in New York. They exist. All of a sudden he's like, here, kitty kitty, and he's like got his sword out and he's ready to go. Which, by the way, props to the Strain for using actual proper sword handling techniques, because I hate it in movies and TV shows when they don't. But the Strain uses accurate sword handling technique. The shopkeeper Strigoi pops up, and then Quinlan pulls a Splinter Cell Sam Fisher Metal Gear level thing, and he just pops up behind him and was like, got him. And I was like, he was tracking him. Then they have their shakedown. He's like, all right, Master, I can see that you see me. So, and F turns into a badass, and that's one thing that I love about this show, is watching these characters evolve. How F was kind of this by-the-book scientist, he's looking at every detail, and then he's not really the violent type. And now all of a sudden, he's sitting there and he's holding like the Master hostage per se, and he's like, all right, we're gonna make this happen. And I'm like, F, I love you. I was loving this, and it's like, all right, Zach only knows where this position is. It's where we went fishing. Kelly doesn't know, so booyah, be there. We got the book. But the Master doesn't know that Quinlan's showing up. To Satrakian's confusion, which was kind of a funny scene, Satrakian doesn't realize that all of a sudden it's moving out into water, and he's like, Mr. Fett, what does that mean? And Fett looks at the GPS, sees that the book's moving out into water, and he's like, I think that means that he's out in the water, but they can't cross moving bodies of water. And he's like, then he might have a human helper. And they look confused, and of course we know it's F and Quinlan setting up. But then we get the heartbreaking side of the story, which I thought was really great, is you see that he's been fighting his urges to hurt human beings. And his mother figure, while they're trapped in that cave, he's having to deal with this, and she says, no, you need your strength. I love you like a son. And he calls her mother, and it's beautiful and touching. And then the Strigoi that I presume is the master in a previous form, he's waiting, and they're trapped, and he has to feed on his adopted mother. And it's a very, very touching scene, and very difficult scene for him. And when he's feeding, normally you see them like loving it, and they're just like, oh yeah, girl, get in there nice and deep like. Quinlan, he's starting to like, he has remorse as he was feeding on her. You can see it in his face. And that was really the only time you've seen true emotion come out of Quinlan. And I loved that because it really took a monotonous scene and made it interesting with characters. And then, of course, conveniently, for some reason, the maybe master was sitting on the other side of the wall or something and just kind of blows through. We don't know if time passed or not. And I was trying to recollect from the books, and I don't remember if time passed or not, but it was weirdly cut that way, where all of a sudden, boom, yeah, oh yeah, by the way, I'm still here. Yo, what's up, guys? You can still go pick up your copy of The Strain Season 2 on Blu-ray right now. But in the meantime, Quinlan and I are going to fight. That was the most weird segue I did, but that was how jarring it was, so I have to kind of nick it a little bit for that and say, well, you did kind of weirdly edit that. And so Quinlan tries to fight him, it doesn't work, but he's like, you know what, I'm going to be prepared for later. I'm going to beat you later, yo. Peace. And then storms out, and you're just like, alright, cool. We're setting the stage for this episode. F is waiting, and F's got the book there, and you see our crew. You got Hot Topic Master. You've got a random dude. And then you've got Zach in the hood. And you've got Kelly there. And they're all, and he's sitting there and he's like, all right, there's Zach. And he's like, I got the book. All right, send Zach, get him closer, get him closer. And he's moving him in. Kelly's got him, moving him in. He's like, all right, reveal him. Boom, Strigoi charges it. And then he's like, blah. And then shearing pain, just the fact that the Lumen is it's a backup weapon per se of book of knowledge. Knowledge is half the battle. As they're sitting there now, they're scruffing it up. He's sitting there hitting them with swords. It's not looking good. And she's like, can I please feed on him? Because he's like, I want my son. She's like, never. And they're struggling with each other. And he's like deflecting her stinger and everything. And it's not working out well. And then out of nowhere, gunshots. And then you just see Quinlan in the distance, and you're just, at that point, you're on the edge of your seat, and you're like, all right, come on, man, this is gonna work. And Quinlan's just like, after like 1,000 years or thousands of years, you know, it comes down to this. At an amusement park. I was like, yeah. It's, you know, it's epic that way. And then Satrakian looks over and sees soldiers moving. Fett said that, oh hey, those are my Navy SEAL guys. Hey guys! And then they turn and they look like Strigoi, of course, because they are. And he's just kind of like, they're all just firing. Quinlan's getting hit, and he's just like, oh crap. And then Satrakian, being the cool ass dude that he is, just pulls his flashbangs and is just like, Quinlan! Throws it out there. Boom! People be dying everywhere. Strigoi be burning. And then all of a sudden, you know, they're all fighting, and then Satrakian throws another one. Boom! Hits by the master. Bang! And it's all really well. They do a really great job of showing that as they're getting like burned up. And Quinlan's moving closer. He's wounded. He pulls out his sword, and they're building the tension. And as you know, this show, they've had a lot of close calls where they're like, we're about to kill the master. And so he's walking closer, and it's like, oh, something's brewing, something's brewing. And then, ooh, I literally like nearly fell over. Quinlan jumps in the air and is like, oh, and goes down, cuts, and beheads the master. The master is dead. Boom, show over right there. Cuts the head off. Dead, over, done. You're just like, did our heroes win? And Satrakian like moves up closer, and Quinlan starts to fall over because they're linked, so they're dying. Master's dead, right? What's going on? Master's dead, and Satrakian like walks over and looks and sees this weird Cthulhu Lovecraftian thing squiggling on the ground and then falls down the sewer drain. He looks and he just kind of stares dramatically and realizes that maybe we just kind of screwed ourselves over more by the Master dying. What's gonna happen? I don't know. Oh my god. Tension, tension, and then credits. And I was like, blah. Guys, gals, and everything in between. I thought this episode was great. How they kind of like slowly built up to this explosion at the end. I'm loving it. I think that the 10 episode pacing as opposed to the 12 is working perfect for this show. I cannot wait for next week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got plenty more videos coming to you. Love you guys.